This episode of the Young Turks is brought to you by WestHost, offering premium web hosting since 1998. Go to westhost.com/TYT for 25% off. WestHost! WestHost, WestHost!
The big news of today is that President Obama has unveiled his budget. It has $1.1 trillion worth of cuts, spending cuts, over the next 10 years. I like to look at it in a 2-year window because we have all the relative numbers in that context before, of course, he comes up for re-election in 2012. So it winds up being a little over $200 billion in cuts, and there are some serious cuts. Let me tell you what they're cutting here. $300 million for community block grants. That, of course, goes to help community organizing, which is what President Obama used to do. $2.5 billion for energy assistance. We've told you about that before, for poor people. Who needs heat in the winter? And $400 billion in a 5-year spending freeze. So that, of course, winds up becoming about $80 billion a year in cuts that way. And then on top of that, he's got cuts to Pell Grants. He moves money around a little bit there, some cuts to graduate school student programs. So a little bit of cut in education, fun for everybody. So you're hitting the middle class, you're hitting the poor. Now, he does have tax increases in there on some oil companies, etc. It's not really an increase, it's taking away their subsidies. So that part of the plan I do like, right? And it's of course not all bad. And of course I get that you need some cuts. I understand that. But my complaint about Obama, as usual, is the preemptive surrender. Not we got to these cuts at the very end after we negotiated and the Republicans twisted our, arms behind our back. But on top of that, we got them concessions from them saying, hey, you know what? Okay, you're going to do these really hurtful spending cuts. But in return, we're going to say, all right, we're going to take away the oil subsidies from ExxonMobil, and we're going to take away, for example, carried interest on the hedge fund guys. To tax the richest guys in the country 15% for no reason on income they're earning, just like you and me, when that should be at 35%. If we get those concessions, right, and it make all the sense in the world. First of all, we should get all of that because they make sense. There's not anybody in the country other than elected Republican officials who thinks that we should give our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to the richest companies in the world like ExxonMobil for no reason. So what, to incentivize them to make profit? They already make a giant profit. They're the most profitable company in the world. It makes no sense. But nonetheless, if we got those concessions, the easiest concessions in the world, then maybe you could talk about these cuts that are very painful. But instead, of course, the number of concessions that Obama has gotten so far is zero, none, squat. So he got the donut in concessions, but hey, listen, at least he's going to balance the budget, right? Hell no, he's not going to balance the budget. He cuts $200 billion off the back of, largely off the middle class and the poor. And where's the budget? It's nowhere near being balanced because he, along with the Republicans, gave the rich a giant, over $400 billion tax cut. In fact, to all of us, they gave an $858 billion tax cut in the next 2 years. And like I said, about half of that went to the top 2%. Oh, it's painful to say, man. So, you take away $200 billion, but you add $858 billion to the budget, to the deficit, I should say, because of the tax cuts. You're still $658 billion in the hole. So what did you accomplish? Nothing. You made the deficit worse. If you think that's bad, this is really important context. Do you know that if you cut the entire non-defense discretionary budget, so it's not defense, it's not Social Security, Medicare, etc., but the entire domestic budget outside of that, that is $477 billion. The entire deficit is $1.65 trillion. You know what that means? That means if you cut everything, no domestic spending, you would still have over a $1.1 trillion deficit because you cannot balance this budget just with spending cuts. Even if you cut every single thing, you couldn't do it. You couldn't even come close to doing it. You need to look at the other side, revenue. You need to look at defense. You need to look at our incredibly costly invasions of other countries. But these politicians won't do it. And since they don't do it, it's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. They're never going to balance the budget. and they're going to redistribute money from the rich. I'm sorry. That's the way in a progressive tax scheme it should work, where, hey, you know what? If you could pay a little more, you get charged a little more, right? Not a lot more, not everything. No, but here it's a reverse on its head. They take from the poor and the middle class and they give it to the rich. We elected a Democratic president to go ahead and help the Republicans do that. Now, did it work? Of course not. All right, you want to hear some Republicans? All right, let's go to my friend Senator Sessions. He's on with Bill Hemmer. Let's see if he likes the proposal. Let's go to clip number 2.
You believe what about this budget proposal?
I believe what Erskine Bowles, who President Obama named to be co-chairman of his deficit commission, said yesterday, which is that this budget is nowhere close to avoiding the fiscal nightmare this country is facing. That's what he said about it. I don't think that's at all inaccurate. We are not living within our means. The president has not told us the truth. He is not leading. For Mr. Liu to suggest that somehow we're going to be living within our means in this 10-year budget that he's presenting is totally wrong.
Does it look like President Obama's concessions worked? Do they look like they're coming closer to him? I look at that and I think, what is President Obama thinking? Does he thinking like mission accomplished? Does he think that they're ever going to change their mind? No, I guess he thinks, oh, you know what? I don't care. Mark Halpern thought it was a swell thing to do. David Broder wrote a column about what a wonderful centrist I am. I have pleased Washington. Okay, more Sessions. If you don't think it's clear enough, let's go to clip number 3.
Have Republicans countered with the kind of proposal and tough love that's necessary?
Well, yes, a lot of good proposals have been raised. But let me ask you, first and foremost, this is the President of the United States, who I believe should have told the American people in the State of the Union why we are in a crisis, why we have to reduce spending, not because we want to, but our very economy is threatened. We could face another serious recessionary event, debt crisis that would damage all of us.
Many argue that the American people are ready for the tough love and they're willing to take it. Just tell them what they need to do.
Bill Hemmer's the worst. He's the worst of the worst. Who's paying me? Who's paying me? Fox News is paying me? Oh, fantastic. What do you need me to say? Oh, yeah, Americans need tough love. They need cuts to the middle class, definitely. Did he ask him one question about the $858 billion in tax cuts that Sessions just agreed to? What a bunch of unbelievable hypocrites. Sessions pretending he cares about the budget when he just destroyed the budget with those tax cuts. And then he's like, oh, no. Middle class and the poor, it's time for them to take a hit. It's time for some tough love. Yeah, that's fantastic.
And at West Host offers web hosting for 19 cents a day. You can't get cheaper. That's
right.
ridiculous. You could do web host transfers. Like you got a website, transfer.
For free. You have 24/7 support.
60-day money-back guarantee. Well, then you literally can't lose. 25% off if you go to westhost.com/TYT.
You know what I think about that? I think West Host.
West Host.